say it's on.
You're live.
Hi, everybody. I'm looking for it on my computer. You see it on your phone, Will?
Not yet.
Not yet. And you see it's live right now on there?
Yeah, there are 16 people watching.
Okay. Huh. Well, hi everybody. I have my son here today to help me answer questions. Right now we're just trying to figure out where the questions are coming because I don't see it on my screen. He doesn't see it on his screen. So if we don't get that figured out, what we can do is when I'm done, I can answer questions. Okay. So today I am making soy bottles. Will, you can see myself on the computer?
I'm on it.
Okay. Sounds like we're good.
I'll turn this.
Okay. So today I'm making a soy bottle, aka maple syrup pitcher, also a cream for your coffee, olive oil, what it looks like a little baby teapot, but it's not. It's just too small, right? So that's what I use it for. So again, today we're going to I have my wonderful son here. He's going to be asking the questions you're saying aloud so I can answer and work at the same time so I don't have to stop and read. And so before I begin, that's why my face is right here so I can say hi to you, but before I begin, I'm going to come around and reposition it so you can see the table better. But before I begin, I'm going to just say thank you to Stacy Morgan and Tim C. for organizing Clay Buddies Workshop Week 2020. Today we're all supposed to be at NCECA, and because of you two, we're allowed to experience the greatness of seeing live videos. People who were going to go get to see it, and people who weren't going to go get to see it too, which is awesome. So thank you, Stacy and Tim. Okay, I'm going to reposition the camera now. Excuse me, Will. Bear with me, everyone.
Do you want me to? I think I can get onto the live if you want.
What?
I think I can get onto the live on my.
Yeah, I don't know how. Can you? Okay, Will's coming around to get my computer on live so I can actually see myself too. So that's not me. That's Will. Haha, Tim. I'm sure you played a huge role. Huge, huge, huge. It's okay, Will.
No, it's okay.
It's fine.
No, I got it.
Okay. Really? That's me.
Yeah.
Nope. It's okay, Will. Never
no,
mind.
Wait. I thought I somehow. How did you get to your notifications?
Don't worry. Oh, there I am.
There we
Hooray. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, turn the. Yeah.
Okay. Good?
There we go.
All right.
Sounds good.
Okay, everyone. So, first of all, can everyone see this space right here? I know we're quite delayed, aren't we?
Yeah, there's going to be a pretty big delay.
Okay, so I'm not going to worry about that. All right, so these are the tools that I need to make the bottle. So I have my mud tools. I have a paintbrush, but not for my paintbrush.
I think it's good.
I have a needle tool, a hole maker, a serrated rib, a rolling pin, paddle, banding wheel, And what this is called, I call it a bullet. So what I did was I threw it on the pottery wheel. And I think Tim, if you were watching last night, Tim made lots of little bottles. But he also, I think he made a closed form all the way in. So if you don't know how to do it, refer to his video. You pull a straight cylinder and then you move it and close them. And that's how I made the bullet. And then I bisqued it. I make it without a bottom because I like to stick my hand in it when I'm using it. But if you don't know how to do that, you could make it with a bottom and then just cut it out. If you don't have a wheel, you could pinch a closed form, or you could use something round to force it down, or use like a ball or a balloon. No, that wouldn't work. But if you don't have a kiln, that wouldn't work either. So anyway, if you don't have a wheel or a kiln at home while we're all stranded at our houses, just pinch one, okay? So I'm gonna put those to the side because I need my space, right? And I have, the only bits of clay that I need for this project is...
Someone asks the dimensions of the bullet mold.
I would say, I have various sizes. I would say this one's probably 4 to 5 inches tall, and the diameter is about 3 inches. I've made them as big as teapots, so it doesn't really matter. And I cut down about 4 inches, maybe 3 inches even. So as long as you have enough to clear that, I would say 4 to 5 inches. And when you're throwing, probably 5 to 6, or 5, at least 5. All right, so I have a pound of clay, and then I have 3 other bits for the other parts. This is for the handle, this is for the spout, and this is for the knob. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is turn my ball into kind of like the beginnings of a pinch pot. So I'm going to stick my hands and my fists together, put the ball in the center, and I'm going to go around in a circle and create a small divot in the clay. Right? So you can see it, yes?
Weight of the ball?
1 pound. Yep. Thank you, Will.
Yeah.
All right, now I'm going to take my bullet and I'm going to take the divot and I'm going to put it on top of the bullet so it's like a hat. And I'm going to take my hands and I stuck it on my banding wheel. I'm going to take my hands and just press down a little bit so it doesn't fall off. And what's nice about a bisque mold is that you can take it off and see if you're centered, which I really like. I'm looking for this wall to not be off center. So I often check. All right, so for me, my hand is small enough to fit my hand inside. So that's what I do next is I stick my hand in and I take my paddle and I start at the top and I go in a clockwise, counterclockwise motion. It doesn't really matter what direction you go in. And the reason, I mean, you could just hit it wherever the heck you want, but for me, I think it's easier to know where you've hit because sometimes you can get really thin sides or really thick sides and you want to keep it as even as possible. So I'm going to start back at the top and do the same thing again. And no worries, you can definitely check to see how you're doing as you go. So that's pass number 2. Will, you can see the whole bullet is in the image?
Yes, I think so.
If you don't have a paddle, you could use a 2x4. You could use the back of a wooden hairbrush, the back of a mirror. Something wooden is probably a great idea because it doesn't stick to your clay. So once I get it down, you know, a couple inches, then I can go to the side and start heading downward. And that's what starts to get it really moving down. Now let's say that you don't have a bullet that has a bottom, or that is missing a bottom, or let's say you don't have a hand small enough to fit inside. You can use your banding wheel and do the same thing. So typical things that happen to someone who's making one early on, like for the first time, is that it starts to flare out at the bottom. And so what things that you can do to make it come in is take it and just squeeze it back against the form, okay? And then keep going. Oh, let me show you what it looks like. So you can take it off and check. So I can see it's a little thick on this side. So I'm gonna put a line here and a line here and put an X on this area, which tells me that I'll have to hit that spot a little farther. And if I set it down, I can see that the height on the inside of the very top is pretty high up from here. So I know that there's still some clay that I can hit there. So I'm gonna put it back on. Start at the top again, and as I go down, I will make sure to hit that X area a little bit more. There's the X area, and then go around. Usually for me, I use the same bullet. I have several, but I use the same one, and so I know when I'm using a pound how far down I can usually get. So it's helpful if you're making these over and over again to use the same bullet, the same pound of clay, and then you really just can tell where the normal end would be. So this is about it for the length. And you see I'm squeezing it. Now you notice that if I pick it up, it's kind of uneven everywhere, right? Because I can't hit evenly throughout. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna center it. And I'm going to take a needle tool and cut off the bottom, well, 2 inches up from the bottom. And so let's say you don't know how to center, tap on center. You can do, I'm going to mark it, but I'll show you how to do it if you can't tap on center. So what you can do is you can take your pinky and find your line, go all the way around nice and slow until you connect to the other side, right? And then once it connects, then you can just dig lower until you hit the bisque mold. Another reason why I love bisque mold so much is because like plaster and I are just mortal enemies. I don't know how people keep plaster out of their clay, but I cannot do it. So this is how I have dealt with the solution. Yes, Will?
What made you decide to make shapes using hand building throwing the shape?
Well, I am not a huge fan of throwing. I don't like my arms getting wet, which is a real drag for being a potter. And I like being able to make something from the beginning to the end. And so I just developed a way to hand build my bottles. I used to throw them, and I just didn't like how uneven they were as far as from piece to piece. So this was just an easier way and a cleaner way for me to do it. Okay, so I've cut off the bottom, and now I have this extra ball of clay. I'm going to use that, so I'm going to put it to the side, and I'm going to flip it over, and you can see it's kind of thick and cut looking. So what I'm going to do is take my thumb, put it inside, and go around and just soften the edge. Okay, so now I can take this off, and I'm done with the bullet. So you can see that you could definitely pinch this rather than using the bullet, but I like how they all turn out the same when I use it. So, all right, so at this point, I have this upside down dome, right? Well, I'm gonna build it from the upside down position. So at this point, this is where the feet come in. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the two opposite sides and I'm gonna gently take the rim and fold it in and face each other. I'm gonna rotate and do the same thing here. So now I have like this 4-leaf clover. All right, and so from here, what I'm gonna do is move this new pressed area towards the corner, slowly. If I went quickly, what I would do is I would bring the wall to the wall, when what I really want is the rim to the rim. So if I slowly coax it over, then those rims face each other. The other way creates like this foot that doesn't, it's too domey looking from the bottom. And so this keeps the feet looking like feet. Okay, so I have my 4 points, right? All right, so the clay is really wet still, so I can easily blend those 4 corners into each other, so I don't have to use any slip. So what I'm going to do is just take one and fold it over itself until it looks blended.
What type of clay do you use?
I am using Laguna B-Mix Cone 5, B-Mix 5, and it has no grog in it. Yeah, that's what I'm using right now. That's pretty much what I've used for the last 4 years. Yeah. So one at a time, blending all the way around. I can definitely answer questions if you have them. Three, 4. Will, is it clear? Is the computer clear?
It seems pretty clear.
It doesn't look clear on the
That might just be because it's a computer and it's a way bigger picture.
Hey everybody, is this in focus?
Someone's asking if they could get a closer view a little.
Oh yeah, good idea. So, it's a dome with 4 points. Can you see it okay? Yeah. Right?
People are saying it's good.
Okay, so now I have these 4 closed corners.
People are saying it's in focus.
Okay, good. So now I have this gaping hole, of course, that we need to address, right? So I'm gonna put my banding wheel off to the side, and I'm gonna take my extra clay that I used earlier, or that I cut off from the dome, and I'm gonna pound it into a pancake. This is actually what I do whenever I'm hand building. All the extra clay that I use, I always take it and pound it into itself because it's reusable right away instead of just folding it up and drying it out. It makes a nice dense cookie to keep building with.
I don't know if this will be an easy question to answer, but how do you fire?
I fire in a cone art kiln to cone 5 for these pieces and for my other work that I sell, you know, for this style. But then recently I have an order for some steins, and I use Clayscapes glazes, and I'm going to cone 6.
200.
What?
200.
Oh, yeah. All right, so here's my cookie, right? Here's my soy bottle. And so what I'm going to do now is cut it to size. Where's my knife? Hold on, everybody.
While you're doing that,
Yep.
What kind of surface are you working on?
Oh, okay. So there's this, again, this is something, like I said earlier, plaster and I do not get along. So this is a rubber mat that I purchased from, what is it called? Cornell Clay Supply in Ohio. I was down at a workshop last year and they were selling this, and I don't know what it's called, but, and I don't think it has any words on the back, but I got it at Cornell Clay Supply. I can wedge on it. I can hand build on it, and the clay just does not stick, and it's the best thing ever because I don't have to clean canvas, and I don't have to deal with plaster, and I don't think it will ever get old. It's just perfect, and it's blue. It's pretty. So yeah, I don't know what it's called, but I got it at Cornell Clay Supply. All right, so I have this gaping hole in the bottom of my syrup pourer. And so what I'm going to do is cut to size. Always err on a little too big so you don't have to recut or re-roll out another piece.
Why cone 5 on some and cone 6 on others?
Because it really has to do mostly with the kiln. The cone art kilns have an extra layer of insulation on the outer edge, and so it gets really hot, and it retains heat really well. And so going to cone 5 on the programmable really makes it a soft 6 because I have a kiln, like a cone pack inside, just to double check. And so inside the kiln it's cone 6, and then inside on the outside on the programmable it's definitely cone 5. When I had an L&L before, and I definitely went to cone 6 for that. All right, so this is pretty much good on one end, maybe a little too long on the other. And so I'm just looking for it to cover probably anywhere between 1/8 to like 3/16 of an inch covering that edge. And so before I start attaching, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that sharp edge and just soften it a little bit. It makes the blending go way faster.
I see that you're cutting on the rubber mat, but
Yep.
Can you cut with anything on it?
I have never used an X-Acto knife on it, and I wouldn't, but definitely this fettling knife that has a very dull edge is fine. But I wouldn't recommend an X-Acto. All right, so now I have this soft edged square. And as far as the thickness goes, I try and keep it similar to the thickness of the wall where it's folded, which is just on the edge where I pinched it earlier. And before I attach, now this is just the same thick wetness as the clay of the bottle, so I'm not gonna worry about the scoring and the slipping and all that because it's the same. So what I'm doing is I'm just scoring the outer edge of the square only. I will dunk my tool, which is a serrated mud tool. I will dunk it in the tool in water just to give it a slight stickiness on the last pass. And so now my edges are even thinner, which is good for blending, because since this is so soft and it's already folding in, you definitely want that blendable edge to be easy to move, or else you're gonna make this arch go farther down, which we don't want. So now I'm gonna line it up. And cleaning something on the side. So you can see it's just resting on top right now. What I'm gonna do is just tack it all the way around first before I do anything else to create that, basically that air pocket. We want the air to be trapped in there before we start pushing. Okay, so it's sealed-ish. I didn't go crazy trying to close it, but it is better than it was. Okay, so from this point on, or at least from the sealing point of view, I am going to be blending with my thumb, and I'm blending it sideways, not straight down, but just a gentle, it's almost like a gentle feathering. And I'm trying to bring that edge into the wall without it falling in. And I just do one side at a time.
If someone didn't catch the beginning, how could they watch it later?
I have been told by the Clay Buddy people, Stacy and Tim, that if I save it, then share it, it will be on the Clay Buddies page after it's done, and I believe they will be put somewhere else later. So yeah, they will definitely be, this one will definitely be on the Clay Buddies page until they don't want it there anymore. Okay, so now it's closed in and blended, right? And now I'm gonna show you, here it is sitting, okay? Oh, they're so heavy. So you can see it's got its little feet, it's closed in, looks like a turtle with its head and tail inside, right? All right, so from this point, you'll notice with the soy bottles that I do, they have feet that are separated from the rest of the body. So that's the part I'm gonna do now. And I'm gonna take my yellow rib, and the only reason why I'm choosing this rib at this point is not for its pliability, but for the shape and the edge right here, because the edge is what I use to press the feet to separate it from the rest of the body. So what I'm doing is I'm laying down in the back of the foot, and I'm gonna, as I go, I'm gonna go around. And what I'm doing is I'm pressing down the rest of the clay away from the foot. And what that does is separate it. So I'm going to do it in one motion. So I'm pressing down and going around and pressing away from the foot. And so what that does is create a separation. And then I blend away.
What's the approximate thickness of the piece that you just put on the bottom?
It's the same as the wall that I had for the body, and I would say it was, before I actually smoothed it out on the edge, it was, I would say, an eighth to, in between an eighth and a quarter of an inch. Yeah. But more importantly, make it the same as your wall. So again, going around, pressing down, going around, connecting, and then pushing and blending that away. This takes a little bit of practice. So one thing I recommend if you want to make feet like this is just take a ball of clay, make it into a point, and just practice on that solid piece of clay first before trying this. You know, just get good at it first. Next one. I made one last night to this stage, so I have a stronger one that's ready to go to finish the other pieces, because I would, at this point, once I'm done with the feet, I would let it dry out a little bit, because it's very soft, of course. And you know it's hard to add attachments to something that is too wet. Last foot. Blending. And I do a lot of fussing at this point. I'm gonna skip that because of time. But at this, usually I'll go in and pull a little bit, make it wider, straighter. more even. One thing I want to mention before I move on to the next piece is if I found that it was just too fat and like your feet were just competing with the belly, if you stick a hole.
Oh, someone was just about to ask that.
Oh.
Asking if you need a vent hole to prevent cracking.
Well,
Is that what this
if
would be?
let's say you're going to do it, you're going to leave these overnight before going any further, then yes, definitely you would need a vent hole just in case it's really super dry where you're working. But if you were going to work on it in a couple hours, it would be okay to just leave it alone. But if you were going to work on it straight away, you're going to be putting lots of holes in it, so it really wouldn't matter. But for the point I'm making, which is if it's too fat at the bottom, too puffy, you can stick a hole in and just flatten it out a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to put this one off to the side and take this stronger one. Yeah, it's much stronger. All right, so now we need to do 3 more things, right? We need to add a knob and a spout and a handle. And so a couple things I want to point out. Whenever I'm making mine, I make mine so you can see the point and then the 2 arches. I just like seeing those arches. And so if you wanted it to have more of an animal look and you rotated it, you could put your spout here and your handle here, and it would have a much more animal-like quality because it has 4 feet, the handle can be a tail, and the spout can be a snout or a nose. Yeah, so when I've taught this before, we've had many creative solutions to that. You know, elephants is an obvious one. Dinosaur, turtle, they're super cute. But for mine, I make mine so the point is showing as a profile. All right, so I'm going to put in my holes first, and then I will deal with the other parts. So for mine, I find the 2 edges that I'm going to be, I'm finding the 2 edges of, I'm finding the center. So I paddle mine a little weird, so I have to make sure that I'm doing it right. So for the knob, I put it right in the middle. So in order to make sure it's in the middle, I have to stand and look and make sure it's actually centered. So this is a hole maker. They usually come with a little cap on them. But what I do is I just rip the cap right off, probably throw it away because I honestly would have lost it anyway. And I use that first as a mark. And then when I'm pleased with the where it's sitting, then I cut it with the other side. So to me, that's centered. Wait. Yeah. So a lot of times when you do this, you can't help it and the clay falls in, and that's okay. You can rattle it out later. Right now, don't worry about it. Mine came out. What I do to make sure that I can get it out later is I take a finger with a little water on it and I just widen it slightly so I know that I can get that piece out later. Okay. So there's my top hole. And now I'm going to make my spout hole. You know what? I'm going to skip making the hole first. I'm going to make sure that I'm happy with the location of the spout before I make the hole. So the first thing I'm going to do now is make a spout. And I used to throw spouts, and then I used to do a pattern, but now I do it in one solid piece. So I'm really excited to show you this because it's a really easy way to make a spout from a solid piece of clay. So this started out as a ball. This is probably the size of like a 25-cent ball, gumball. And I'm gonna turn it into a cone. So I roll mine on the side to make a cone. If you are not good at doing that, you can take a paddle or something that has a straight edge and you can roll it Just make sure that you're angled properly so it actually makes a cone. And then I'm going to flatten both sides, the top and the bottom. Okay, so this is where the paintbrush comes in. All right, so I have a cone, right? It has a flat top and a flat bottom. It's pretty tiny, but so is the soy bottle, right? What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my paintbrush, I'm gonna dunk it in water so it has a little movability, and I'm gonna find the center of the top of the cone, all right? And I'm gonna put it down. And I'm gonna stab the cone and go all the way through to the other side. If you're not in the middle, back out a little bit and just work your way over. You don't have to start over, just make sure it's in the middle, okay? The reason why I go in this direction is so I can make sure that my spout hole is in the middle. But from this point, once I've pierced it, I take it out, add a little bit more water, and go to the other side. So now the top of the spout is on the top of the paintbrush. And what I'm gonna do, you can see it resting, and right now my paintbrush is at an angle because this is laying on its side. What I'm gonna do is hold the paintbrush, I'm gonna take my finger and I'm gonna press down, and I'm gonna focus on the hole in the back, and I'm gonna open up the back of the spout. So you can see that the hole in the back is now wide, whereas the hole in the front is still tiny. Cool, right? Questions, anyone?
Yes.
Yes.
How and when do you smooth out the outside surface of the pot? The new one is quite a bit more smooth.
It's so much better. So it's like in between these two states, like right here, this is super wet, right? This is nice and dry. So once it gets a little drier, I take my banding wheel and I take the red rubber rib and I start petting it. It's a little soft right now. And I keep going around until those paddle marks go away. If you don't have a red one, the metal one works great too. In fact, at this stage, I think a metal one would be better because it's so wet. So you can see the process that I'm doing right now as far as what to do. It's just too early. Here's what the metal rib looks like. I just go around. They also get misshapen over time because I've turned it over, right? So you can, because the air is contained, you can paddle and that will bring the shape to whatever shape you want. You can make it a square, you can make it round, you can make it have, angled to be puffier on one side than the other. So that's how you do that, just, an hour later. So it's not sticky. So it's not sticking to the paddle. All right, so back to the spout. So I'm gonna take it off now, right? Here's my hole in the back. Here's my hole in the front. I'm gonna pinch the back, make it a little thinner. And you can see the hole in the front is not great. So at this point, what I do is I stick my paintbrush back in and I'm gonna pinch and rotate. And what that does is it moves that edge up the wall of the paintbrush and makes the spout wall at the top really much smaller and prettier and pourable. And so it's still really tiny, so I'm gonna take my paintbrush and widen it a little bit. There's a little bit of water in there, so it makes it much easier to move. And then the rest of the refining can happen when it's on the teapot. All right, putting this back in place, I'm going to attach now. So first, in order to find out where I want it to go, I'm gonna dunk the bottom of it in there, in the water. And I'm going to see where I want it to go. So by dunking it in water, what it does is it leaves a ring so I can see where I want it. I also do a lot of handling of the spout to make it cuter. So and I'm doing it while it's in place. So I like that placement. So when I take it off, I can see where the hole is, right? You see that?
Does that make for a very thick spout since you didn't take off any clay, just rolled it?
Well, it was this tiny piece of clay to begin with, so it's about a quarter of an inch, no, about an eighth of an inch, maybe a little thicker, and I don't think it's too thick, no. If you feel like it's too thick, just use less clay and keep rolling until it's the right size. Okay, so now I'm going to make the hole in the teapot. And again, I use the back and I line it up and make sure it's in the right place first. Make sure that my little feet are all matching up nicely. They are. Digging. And again, if that clay falls in, I'm gonna, well, this part's widened, but I'm also gonna widen this. And it stayed. Sticking my finger in, widening the hole. And also, you know, my spout is pretty wet still. So I think that I'm gonna let it sit for a minute and I'll show you how to make the knob while that's sitting. So I have another ball of clay right here and I'm gonna turn it into kind of like a cone, but just a softer cone. So again, I can roll it on its side. Until it looks like this. It's like a baby carrot. Okay. And what I'm going to do is find a sharp edge. Basically, a table will work. And I wish I had something closer. I have a sunshine stick. That'll do. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll this and I'm pressing down harder in the back. And what that does is separate the back from the front. So what it's going to do is make it look like a mushroom.
If a piece does fall in, how do you get them out after a bisque fire?
You can usually do it before you bisque. You just rattle it out. It's like a game. All right, so here's my mushroom. And what I'm going to do is squeeze the part that's going into the hole later until it's thinner. Right? And I can cut it because it gets super long. More questions?
What's a sunshine stick?
Sunshine Cob has a stick that has these inches on it and lots of cut lines, and you can use it to cut clay based on where the line is. She has great videos, so if you go to her Instagram page, you can see she shows you how to use it when she's hand building a box, a rectangular box. All right, so I have a skinnier insert. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this top mushroom part and I'm going to flatten it out. So I'm just pinching from the top and the side, and that's making it skinnier, right? Right now it's a little straight, so I'm going to paddle it so it rounds itself out. And I'm going to stick it in the hole. See if it fits. Oh, wrong one. It's a little big. But I also think that the hole in the top is a little small, so I'm going to make the hole a little bigger. Okay, sticking that inside. So there's my knob, and I can fit it to size. Right now it's a little standing up a little too tall. So that's that. When you're glazing these, make sure that you don't add color or glaze to the hole here and to the knob here, because they are a close fit. I've never had one stick, even though sometimes I'll have terracage or just a light wash of an oxide or something in it. They don't stick, but definitely no glaze right there. All right, so now I have my spout and the knob in place. And I'm gonna take the edge of the spout. It's flat right now. I'm tapping it flat so I can score it. I'm dunking my rib in water, and I'm creating a pasty, rough, scored edge. And I'm gonna place my spout in place. And for me, I am not a blender when it comes to attachments. I find that they just always crack. So what I do, I'm gonna take this out, is I leave that line present so you can see that it was added on, and I think that it looks nice. So I am not going to blend it. I'm gonna push until I like how it looks. I will then take a paintbrush and smooth out the edge. Let me get a paintbrush. This one has black underglaze on it, but we're okay with that, right? Okay, and I'm just taking it and smoothing. Before the paintbrush, I could see the lines from the rib, and so this is making that go away. And then as far as the hole in the spout goes, I'm putting my paintbrush back in, opening it up a little bit. By putting my finger here, I can kind of bend it down so it has a better pour. All right, and so last but not least is the handle.
Do you fire the piece and the top separate or together?
They're always together. They dry together and they fire together. Okay. And last is the handle, so I'm going to move that out of the way. And I have my ball of clay, and I'm going to roll it into a big fat Tootsie Roll. This is probably a little too much. I'm going to cut a little off. How are we doing on time? Ooh, 12 minutes. I can do it. I can definitely do it. All right, so I have a Tootsie Roll, right? It's gonna be big enough for one finger. What I'm doing is I'm pinching the inside of it only at this point, so it's starting to bow, and so it kind of looks like a dog bone or a bow tie. And I'm pulling it. And I'm going to hold it and tap it. And I'm going to flip it and tap so that I end up tapping it in the same direction as the last side. I'll show you what it looks like before I do anything else. So it has two waves kind of going upward, and then the other side is going downward, right? So now I'm pulling again. I swear I never do two alike, because the clay behaves differently based on the size and the dryness. So it's like, I tried making a bisque mold of it, but it was too hard to get the clay in and out. So I'm back to resorting to one at a time. But I just really like the way the two thick pieces work together. So I am working on a way to make them the same every time, but this is what this is doing based on the dryness of it right now. So I'm thinning out the inside, pulling until I like the thickness. Now I'm getting these little baby hairline cracks. I don't worry about them. I pet them. They go away. And if you're worried about them being a little too dry, you can add a little water, massage it in. Here comes Cooper, everybody, the cat. He's the loudest cat on the planet. He's wonderful.
Do you glaze it all the way on the top and just not inside the edge of the hole?
Yeah. What? Yeah. What?
I'm gonna take him to dad.
Yes, please. So Cooper's coming. I would have him say hi, but because there's a time issue, we're going to have Will bring him upstairs. It doesn't mean we don't love you, Cooper. We totally love you, and we'll see you really, really soon. All right, so I massaged a little bit of water in here because I knew that if I were to fold it over, it would definitely crack. So again, a little more pulling. I'm going to take it and pinch a little bit. What that does is kind of thin it out. I don't know if you guys ever made test mice, but that's how we made them when we learned. And so I'm doing the test mice pinch method. Okay, so now you can see this little handle, right? That's a very small hole, but I'll work on it as I attach. So now I'm bringing it back, and I'm flipping it over, and I'm slipping and scoring both at the same time with a little water. And when I'm scoring outward. All the way around.
Do you thin out the spout to have it not drip?
I thin the spout out till it comes to a point, and I find that that is the best method for keeping it from dripping. So yeah, I go until it's all the way to a point. I don't have a rounded edge. I just go until it's super sharp. Yeah. And that paintbrush does a great job for that. Okay, so here's my two scored edges, and they're really kind of the same, so I'm gonna pick one. And I keep my spout in place so I know where this should go. I want to be able to have enough room, of course, so I can take my knob on and off. And now I'm pressing down, toggling a little bit, making sure it's lined up with the spout, the knob, and the foot. And I'm pinching and squishing and doing everything I can to make it stay in place without changing the shape. So I'm not squaring it off, basically. And I am almost ready to do the second part. So I can do one more pinch to make it just slightly longer. I hear Cooper again.
Dad's taking a nap, so
Oh.
he was just in it.
All right, so now I'm gonna pick it up,
I'll try
get to
let
the
him out.
back. It's fine, Will. And then I'm going to add a little bit of water to the back of this bottom of the handle and attach. Ooh, I'm out of view. Hold on, I'm gonna stay put for 1 sec. Oh, I'm too high. Hold on. Sorry. Okay, I was too high. All right, so I was attaching all the way around, everyone. And then I pinched, and then I slip and scored, or I just slipped the back because it was already scored. And now I'm going to attach. Okay, so I'm going to set it back down and attach.
Good enough.
Attach.
He went out.
Okay. Cooper is outside.
Won't be for long.
No.
But.
All right, and the last thing I'll do is smooth out right here because there was a little bit of tearing looking going on there. Question, Will?
No.
No? Okay. And opening it up a little bit for that finger. So I added a little bit of water to my hand, to my finger, so I can move freely inside there. And then I'm taking that paintbrush again and working around that seam. Ooh, there's the black underglaze showing.
Do you put a pinhole near the lid for airflow?
I don't. The knob, it's a great fit, but it is by no means a seal. So I don't find that it needs it. But I mean, you could. But I always find that I'm terrible at making those holes because they always glaze shut. So I usually don't. And as far as glazing goes with these, you know, they're a pain in the butt. So what I do is I put a funnel in here and I take glaze, and I only put about a 1/4 cup in there through the funnel, and then I plug the holes, shake it a couple times, it goes everywhere, take my finger off the hole, and then slowly pour it out, and that's enough. And someone asked earlier, do I glaze all the way up to the edge? Usually I don't glaze the outside of the pots. I usually use terracige or underglaze or just keep the body clay. I just really like a matted look. So that doesn't become an issue for me up here. But for someone who is gonna glaze the outside, what I would do with my knob is have it pinch up slightly so it becomes a non-issue because the bottom of this knob isn't really touching. So I just bent this up so I can show you what it looks like. So for those glazing people, have your knob stick up high under here, and then you can glaze. I'm done. And it is, wait, hold on. 56. It's 11:57, so 1 hour.
So
I can definitely answer questions now.
No scoring for no scoring the body for attaching.
I scored the spout, and I scored the bottom of both of these handle attachments, and I scored the bottom of the square.
A good overall question.
Yeah.
What must-have items would you recommend to hand build at home?
Must-have items for hand building at home would be a rolling pin, or a slab roller. If you don't have a slab roller, definitely a rolling pin and just some pieces of wood at various thicknesses so you can roll onto them and make them the same thickness. A banding wheel is 100% my favorite tool, no matter what. And I recommend the Shimpo brand because it keeps spinning. It's heavy. Mine is 25 years old. It's never going to die.
It's like 100 pounds.
Yeah. And a various selection of ribs, and certainly a paddle is necessary. And this new tool that I got recently is made by Zyme. And this is a cutting tool that gives you a 45 on one side and a 60, 30, 90 on the other. And that's great for cutting edges for attachments.
What is that again?
This is called a Zyme tool. It doesn't have a number on it, but it is definitely a cutting apparatus. Yeah, I've seen other brands, but this is the brand that I have. What else? Other questions? I think a Lazy Susan would work. It just doesn't spin, but it would certainly work for, using it as a guide. It's great for painting because you can go back and forth with it. So a Lazy Susan will definitely work. Yeah, the paddle. So I think that I got this. It's been a long time. I think I got it at in Sika when it was in Pittsburgh. I think it was 2008. What's the best part about it is it's light and it's beveled right here. And I think I got it from the Chinese clay supply, but I am not 100% there. I've never seen one like it before. And had Nsika happened this year, I was going to purchase some for some people, but I think that's the brand. If you make one at home, just the beveled edges is the best. You're welcome. You're welcome. She said you could use a 2. Yep, that's right. The 2x4, the back of the brush works too. And it is what time? It is 12. So it's over. It's so over. And I don't know if you can see me, but it was really great hanging out with you guys. And thanks for watching. And if you ever make one of these, please show me. You can go to Brooke Millecchia _ceramics on Instagram or on my Facebook page and tag me so I can see your beautiful creations. Have a great week, everybody. Stay safe. Hugs and kisses. Wait, don't do anything.
Okay.
I have to make sure I save it and share it.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Do you want me to finish it now?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Sorry about that.
That's okay, Will. All right, so now I'm going to finish. Bye, everyone.